She told her husband she was going sightseeing. It was a Thursday morning in April, and Philadelphia was cold, gray, the kind of city that swallows you whole if you walk the wrong direction. Jeffrey Smith kissed his wife goodbye, went to his conference, and assumed he'd see her for dinner. He never saw her alive again. Judy Smith was 50 years old, a nurse from Newton, Massachusetts. She was careful, experienced, the kind of woman who had spent her entire career paying attention to people in crisis. She knew how wrong things could go. And yet something happened on April 10th, 1997, that pulled her out of her ordinary life and into something none of her family, friends, or investigators have ever been able to fully explain. When she didn't return to the hotel that evening, Jeffrey assumed she'd gotten caught up in the city. By the next morning, he knew something was wrong. He contacted police, he printed flyers, he hired private investigators. He called every hospital he could find. For 5 months, Jeffrey Smith searched for his wife, while the city of Philadelphia offered no answers, and the police treated him, briefly, as a suspect before clearing his name entirely. And then, on September 7th, 1997, a father and son out hunting in Pisgah National Forest near Asheville, North Carolina, found something in the woods. It wasn't just a remote location. It was more than 900 kilometers from Philadelphia, over 560 miles, deep in the Appalachian Mountains. A shallow grave, partially uncovered, with scattered bones and a blanket. A woman had been stabbed to death, the blade leaving marks on the bones themselves, cuts in her bra. There was no question about what had happened there. Someone had brought this woman to an isolated forest and killed her, and tried to bury her, and walked away thinking she would never be found. Dental records confirmed it was Judy. The arthritic knee that matched her medical history confirmed it again. But what investigators found around her body raised more questions than the discovery itself. She was wearing clothes her family did not recognize. Jeans, thermal underwear, hiking boots. None of it was clothing she had owned, as far as anyone could tell. Her signature red backpack, the one she had carried from Massachusetts, was gone. In its place, a blue backpack that wasn't hers. With the blue backpack, they found cash, her wedding ring, and a pair of expensive sunglasses that no one in her family had ever seen before. Somehow, between Philadelphia in April and a shallow grave in North Carolina in September, Judy Smith had changed her clothes, acquired new belongings, lost others, and traveled hundreds of miles across several states. Because there were sightings, multiple, credible, deeply strange sightings of a woman believed to be Judy in the days following her disappearance. Witnesses reported seeing a woman matching her description driving a gray sedan. Others claimed to have seen her at a deli counter, buying sandwiches alone. One reported seeing her purchase a toy pickup truck, a child's toy, from a store. The sightings were spread across hundreds of miles. Taken together, they suggested that Judy Smith had not been abducted from a Philadelphia street in a matter of seconds. She had traveled. She had stopped places, bought things, eaten food, stayed in hotels. And something, somewhere along the way, had gone catastrophically wrong. The strangest piece of evidence from this period was what witnesses reported about her behavior. Between April 13 and April 15, a woman stayed at the Society Hill Hotel in Philadelphia. She registered under the name H.K. Rich/Collins, a name no one has ever explained or traced. Hotel staff described her behavior as so erratic and disturbing that they gave her a nickname. They called her the Weirdo of the Week. She reportedly stood at an open window and exposed herself to passers-by. She spoke loudly in what witnesses described as different languages, seemingly in conversation with no one. She declared repeatedly that the emperor would provide her with money whenever she needed more. She extended her stay that way. Apparently, funds did arrive. Whether this was Judy Smith, no one can say with certainty, but the description of the woman, age, appearance, the timeline, aligned with her disappearance closely enough that investigators have always considered it a strong possibility. Something had happened to Judy's mind. Whether it was an acute psychiatric break, whether she had been drugged, whether she was in the grip of something that had been developing quietly for years without her family's knowledge, no one knows. What is clear is that the woman staying in that hotel room was not behaving rationally, was not safe, and was alone in a city where no one knew her real name. From there, the trail fractured into scattered sightings and open questions. How did she travel from Philadelphia to the mountains of North Carolina? Did she go willingly? Did she meet someone? Did someone drive her there? Or did she make that journey herself in a gray sedan that was never definitively identified? The murder itself, the stabbing, the shallow grave, the remote location, suggests someone who had experience in these mountains, someone who knew the terrain, who understood that the Pisgah National Forest was vast and that the odds of discovery were low, someone who was not panicking. This was not a crime of opportunity that went too far. This was deliberate. Over the years, one name has come up in conjunction with this case, though never with any formal linkage. Gary Michael Hilton was a drifter, a former dog trainer, a deeply disturbed man who spent years traveling the eastern United States in a van. Between October 2007 and January 2008, he abducted and murdered several people along hiking trails in national forests across Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida. He became known as the National Forest serial killer. He was convicted, and he is currently serving multiple life sentences. One of his victims was discovered near Pisgah National Forest, not far from where Judy Smith's remains were found. He had a long history in these mountains. He knew them. He had lived and traveled in them for years before his known killing spree began. And yet, there is no physical evidence, no confession, no witnesses, no forensic link placing Gary Michael Hilton anywhere near Judy Smith in 1997. His confirmed murders began a decade later. Investigators have never formally named him as a suspect in her case, and he has never been charged. The proximity, geographic and methodological, remains a disturbing coincidence that no one has been able to either confirm or dismiss. Judy Smith's case remains officially unsolved. There is no suspect. There is no theory that accounts for every piece of evidence without introducing new impossibilities. How did she end up with different clothes and different belongings? Who was she traveling with, if anyone? What happened to her mind in those 5 months? Who stabbed her and buried her in those mountains? And how did they know to go there? Her husband, Jeffrey, spent years pushing for answers. Her family spent years trying to understand what they could have missed, what they should have seen, whether the woman in that hotel room was truly Judy in a state none of them had ever witnessed, or whether someone else had stepped into her identity while she was already gone. There are cases that haunt investigators because there are no leads, and then there are cases that haunt because there are too many sightings, too many strange details, too many questions that open onto more questions. Judy Smith's case is the second kind. The closer you look, the less clear it becomes. She left a hotel on a Thursday morning in April to go sightseeing. She kept walking, and wherever she went, whatever happened to her in those 5 months, she took most of it with her into those mountains.